Let's talk about this. This movie is maybe 40% inner monologue,
It
spoken dialogue to inner monologue.
You don't get the movie unless that's there.
Sometimes we're even getting information that we don't get in Denis Villeneuve's film. They had Virginia Madsen come in,
Yeah.
the Emperor's daughter, and do this opening monologue where that's this exposition dump, and it never really makes sense in the movie why it's her. She says some things and then she fades away, and then she comes back and keeps speaking, and then she fades away. And there's so many decisions where you're like, "Oh, that was just to save time somehow."
Yeah.
And a lot of the time we need the inner monologue to
Yeah.
follow along, but a lot of the time we actually don't. One of the ones that I really clocked was, spoiler alerts
Yeah.
for
Or
Dune.
yeah.
This applies to the Denis Villeneuve movies too. When
Yeah.
the Atreides family is betrayed by Dr. Yue, goes up to Leto Atreides, who's been sort of paralyzed, and he puts a poisoned tooth in his mouth and tells him, "Bite down on this poisoned
Yeah.
tooth when the Baron is close to you, and it
Yeah.
will poison him and kill him."
Yeah.
And in this movie, they do this inner monologue thing where the Duke in that scene is like, "Remember the tooth.
Yeah. The
Remember
tooth.
the
Remember the
tooth."
tooth.
He said the tooth. And then later in the next scene, he's like, "What was it he
Yeah.
said? He said something.
Yeah.
What was it?
It was
Oh, yes, the tooth.
the
I
tooth.
remember now. I must bite down on the tooth." And it's like, dude, and you can feel that that's producers being like, "We got to make sure that the audience remembers that he has a
Yeah.
poisoned tooth in his mouth." But it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to forget that a guy came up and put a poisoned tooth in his mouth.
And in Denis Villeneuve's, when he's like, "Hey, I've got this tooth," you put it in and make sure that the Baron's close. That's like all they say. And
Totally.
I got it. That was all I needed.
Yep.
And then he's like, "Oh, the Baron, he needs to be close." And then like the Baron and the other,
They're Mentat, but
yeah,
yeah.
they're both right there. And then like the Baron kind of goes away and he like changes into the Baron. He's like, "Oh, there he is," and like bites his tooth and like sprays it in his face. He's like, "Ah!" He
Yeah.
like dies. Weird. Anyway, this whole thing was just like overly
Yep.
explained.
Yeah, there's this prolonged scene where he's like, "Come closer, you. Get closer, Baron." Like, and this is all inner monologue, by the way. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
"Oh
yeah.
no, he's too far away." And there are so many moments like
Yeah,
this. Just, it's like we can see it. We can see
yeah,
it happening. You don't need
yeah.
to tell us.